Hey everyone, it's Kenton Becker, American Pacific Mortgage. I am here with another weekly video tip. This week's video tip is kind of mortgage and house related. What I wanted to talk about is, do you actually meet with a financial advisor on an annual basis? My wife and I, we just finished our annual review with our financial advisor. We like to do it kind of towards the end of summer, beginning of fall, because it's just before all of the holidays and craziness. And we don't want to wait too far into the next year. It's kind of a good refresher just to see how our investments are doing, what plans we need to change, what goals we need to set. Honestly, it really doesn't matter if you have $1,000 in your investments or $1 million in your investments. You need to get together with a financial planner so that you can make these preparations. And for me personally, it keeps me focused. Maybe your goal, if you already own a house, is to get that home paid off in 5 to 10 years. Okay, great. How are you going to do that? What steps are you going to make in your investments? What steps are you going to make extra payments on your home to get it paid off faster? Maybe your goal is to buy a home this next year. What do you need to do to your finances in saving money, maybe getting your credit in shape by paying off debts? How are you going to actually get to achieve that goal of home ownership this next year? Maybe you want to retire in the next 10 years or 5 years or 15 years. How much do you need in your retirements to be able to retire comfortably? Meeting with a financial advisor will really help you in planning all of these different steps out. Now, in my meeting that I had with him just this last week, one of the things that came up, because he knows I'm in the mortgage business, he knows I help people with financing. So one of the questions he even asked me is, hey Kenton, what do you think with the real estate market? What do you think with the interest rates, where they may go? Now, he had his kind of own take on it, his opinion on it based on just the stock markets and investment markets, treasury markets, those kind of things. Our thoughts on it were very similar. Over the next probably 12 to 18 months, we are going to see those interest rates that have gone up so rapidly start to come back down. Maybe even later this year, definitely into the first part or middle of next year, I expect to see interest rates pretty significantly better than they are today. Now, I don't really want to turn this into a market update video. It seems like I naturally start talking about that because it is something that's on my mind pretty frequently in my line of work. But one thing that we did talk about that I want to just mention on this video is just consider that there's a lot of great opportunities out there. Sellers are more motivated right now. And the reason why is because buyers have decided that with these higher interest rates, they just don't want to buy right now. So they're taking a step back. They're sitting on the sidelines or they're on the fence about buying something. And more sellers are saying, I'm not getting the activity that I once maybe thought I should have had. And they're getting more motivated. So you're seeing sellers make price reductions. You're seeing sellers pay for closing costs, make repairs. This is not what we're used to, especially if you've been watching the housing market over the last few years. Now, it's important to remember that this is probably not going to last for very long, because remember what I just said, the reason that buyers are sitting on the sidelines right now is because interest rates are higher. So the question is, when do we think interest rates will come down? If we think that interest rates will come down next year, then the idea being is that when rates come down, that's going to drive more buyers back into the market. If rates drop into the 6s or 5s or even 4s, how many buyers is that going to flood back into the market? Here's the thing, as soon as buyers start flooding back into the market, now sellers are not going to be motivated anymore, and they're not going to be willing to do price reductions, pay for your closing costs, make repairs. We're going to basically be back into the 2020, 2021 markets again, where the sellers really had all the control. So my recommendation to all of my buyers is buy as soon as you can. I heard a saying this week, and I think I'm gonna start using this more regularly, and it is marry the house, but date the rate. It's very simple. You get into a home at a $400,000 price, that's the price you bought that home for. You can't change that, you can't adjust it. So how good you got that price is very important. But what you can change is your interest rate. Let's say today you got into a house for a price of $400,000 with a 7% interest rate. What a terrible interest rate, right? But let's say next year that interest rate's 5.5%. Well, you can always refinance that interest rate down from 7% to 5.5%, but you're still in that house for $400,000. Now, when those rates do come down to 6 or 5 or 4%, and it floods more buyers back into the market, Now you're going to see those home prices start to tick back up again, just like we saw in 2020 and 2021 when interest rates were so low. Also, I've talked about in previous videos the 2-1 buy down strategy. This is a great strategy, especially with motivated sellers, because they would be willing to pay to buy down your interest rate by 2% the first year, 1% the second year. And that is a great strategy, especially when we think that interest rates are going to come down next year or the year after. So picture this, you buy the home today for a great price. Maybe you get the seller to do some repairs. You get the seller to pay for a 2-1 buy down to buy your interest rate from 7% down to 5% for the first year. Then next year, when interest rates are lower, say 5 or 6%, you're able to refinance, and now you make that interest rate a permanently lower interest rate at 5 or 6%, or maybe even 4% if rates drop that low. So there's some good strategies here to really use these programs and use the seller's motivation to get an amazing deal on a home right now. That's my recommendation for you. Meet with your financial advisor, set those goals, look at your investments, plan, prepare. Thanks so much for joining me this week. Have a great week.